Also from my side, very warm welcome to Hanover this morning. I know that, or I understand that some of you might have had a reasonably challenging commute into the city today, and I think also some of you will have a challenging commute out of the city again because of what's happening on the airport. So I really appreciate you making the effort coming here today and understanding what LIGNA is about this year and how the industry is doing. Well, my presentation is structured as such that I'll look back at 2022. Then later on, I'll go into the current situation where the industry, the machinery industry in woodworking is in today, and then further on looking ahead into what the future might bring. But before I get into the details of my presentation, I'd really like to share with you and further allude to what Jochen has mentioned earlier, is maybe 1-2 years back we weren't sure whether exhibitions of the nature of LIGNA would come back to the extent they're actually coming back now. And we are really pleased with the resilience of our industry and with the perception LIGNA has taken over the course of the last few months, and with the participation rate and also with the international aspects of LIGNA. And to be perfectly honest with you, we didn't necessarily expect that a year or two back. So I think that speaks for itself in a way, and I think LIGNA also there, and Jochen, I hope you can confirm that, has a somewhat outstanding role in the exhibition landscape here in Germany. Well, looking back, last year, I mean, we all know the news, and I'm not going to bore you with what's going on there, but we had a reasonably strong demand until Q2 in the first half of last year, and that was actually very, very good. And then really the political situation kicked in and has shown some slowdown in the market. We also dealt with massive shortages in supply chain, and we are dealing with massive shortages in supply chain yet today. You've all heard about that, but I'd like to say that that has more than one aspect to it. On the one hand, of course, a shortage in supply chain means that we cannot deliver our machines on time to our customers. And the second aspect to it is that prices go up, and I'll come to that a little later, so that there is more price uncertainty in the market. And the third aspect to it is that scheduling project has become very, very challenging over the course of the last year or two, so that those massive shortages really hurt the industry in some areas. However, market is still been reasonably strong, and we've managed those shortages very well. Geopolitical disruptions, again, I'm not going to go into that in much more detail. We all know what's going on there. I mean, I want to say, given the uncertainty which we've seen last year, I think the whole marketplace still does reasonably well. So what does that mean in terms of prices of woodworking machinery in Germany? And what you see here is a price development from 2015 to 2022. And I think it can be easily derived from the chart here that from 2020 more or less onwards, we've seen a more than 20% rise in prices. And that was particularly harsh last year, where we've seen 9% price increase, which goes hand in hand with what the government bodies publish in terms of inflation this year. So I don't think it's very surprising. However, it is, of course, an aspect the industry needs to deal with. And what I'd like also to remind you of is in our industry, we typically have dealt with situations where we promise to our customers to deliver goods and equipment and services for fixed prices, at least in the past. And what you need in order to be able to do that is some certainty in your business environment. If we don't have that certainty anymore, we need to find new ways to come up with intelligent pricing models. But I think also there the marketplace has coped exceptionally well with the disruptions from those tendencies. Then when you look at the total woodworking machinery production here in Germany, last year was an the absolute highest number we've ever seen, 3.5 billion euro business, up from 3.4 billion euro the previous year. Let me remind you that this is sales that is realized turnover of the marketplace, so all executed projects. And that's, I think, in light of what was going on, is an absolute remarkable number, and it's a fantastic achievement of the marketplace. We're coming from 2.9 million in 2020, 3.4 million in 2021, and then 3.5 million this last year. Record-breaking year in terms of sales anyways. Then when you further break down the sales into export markets, roughly 60-70% goes into export markets, then the United States last year by far has surpassed China. It's now our largest exporting country by a great margin. However, what we believe is interesting to observe is China is still number 2 here. In spite of all the news you hear on TV or you get from the social media, China is still a very important market for us, and that's also why it's important for us on a political landscape to maintain reasonable relationship with China to make business possible in that country now and in the future. And then what you see in Italy and United Kingdom, also very high numbers last year, is that already the effects of government grant and subsidy programs are kicking in, meaning that the governments are supporting local industries to invest in infrastructure, and that's really paying off. So I think all in all, when you sum up this slide, you can say, okay, US number 1, but all the other markets more or less are in line with how the markets performed in the previous year. Well, now I come to the current situation, the situation we're in, and we at VDMA, we run those surveys amongst our members on a regular basis, and this is a survey we ran in December 2022, and asking our members how they look at the future, and you see 11% are fairly optimistic about what the future might bring, and even 37%. And those numbers together roughly account for half of the turnout here, look at the perspective cautiously optimistic, which I think is positively surprising in view of the geopolitical environment. And 38% further has a mixed mood, whereas on the other hand, only 14%, 11 and 3% together, have a rather positive outlook on 2023. So that's I think all in all, the glass is half empty. It's not half empty, but it's more than half full. And that's a further way to put that. That's that most time I spent in preparation for this presentation is to spell out the name of this lady, Kristalina Ivanova Georgieva. I think that's worth an applause that I can do that. She said from the International Monetary Fund at the convention this year in Davos, it is less bad than we felt a couple of months ago, but it's less bad does not quite mean that it's good. And I think that kind of summarizes pretty well the situation we're currently in and what we expect from 2023. Okay, looking ahead, where are the risks? There are also opportunities. Well, obviously there are chances, opportunities on the one hand, but there are also threats. Obviously, our customers suffer with lower margins these days, so they, their tendencies to invest just from their own margin situation is certainly a little bit decreased. We do have increasing financing costs. I think that plays a role for our customers, but also for the customers of our customers. I guess for more or less everybody, we are all used to a inflation-free, more or less, but also interest-free environment for a number of years. Whether that's healthy or not, I think is a topic for another discussion. And now we have increasing financing costs, and the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States already announced that there will be further increase, and I think here in Europe we'll see the same thing. And as a result of these increasing financing costs and also shortages in supply chain, there's less construction activities and consumption. You know, Germany's largest real estate investment company, public company called Vonovia, some of them might know that, announced just recently that they will not undergo further new investment this year because of the uncertainty that a market is imposed. And obviously, Corona is, I'd say, more or less over. I don't think it's entirely over, but we've all learned to deal with it, and we are all here sitting here without masks. So there will be no more positive effects from the catch-up in the future anymore. On the other hand, I mentioned earlier, there are already government grant programs in place in Great Britain and Italy, fairly large stimulus packages, also in the United States, obviously, to a large extent, and I think we can play a significant role there. On the opportunity side, there is investment pressure as a result of labor shortages, and Jochen also talked about that. I mean, we are all in an environment here that we further need to automate our production processes, and this is not purely a matter of cost anymore. It's a sheer matter of availability of skilled workforce. And that obviously is something our customers have to deal with on a daily basis, we have to deal with on a daily basis, and that will further push and demand on that end. Certainly there are product innovations. You know, we generate roughly a third of our turnover with products which come from innovative areas with new products, so to say, and that I think that particularly in the German or European, let's say, a marketplace, that's what we are best known for, and we of course need to continue to push for that, and that is in a way how we safeguard our future. And there is a strong attention to building with wood, also mentioned earlier. If there is one sustainable product in the world, you know, then wood, I think, stands for itself. And you see nowadays skyscrapers being built with wood. You know, those kind of things were perceived to be not to be realized, not possible just a few years back, and now we see that all over the places. By the way, that has also, of course, not only an implication of sustainability. Obviously, it's also an implication that with wood, this whole matter of prefabrication is a whole lot easier as compared to other products. So you reduce the number of workforce and construction sites when you deal with prefab wood products. So again, a survey we run amongst our members just half a year back, and we ask at the opportunities and risks from a macro perspective, where they're coming, where the risk and where the opportunities do lie. And you know, the dark blue and light blue are big chances and the small chances here, and the further you move to the right on these bar charts, the more we see risk there. And I think hardly surprising, digitalization, automation for our industry, you know, imposes more opportunities than risk. Why is that? I guess, particularly in the woodworking industry, we are for a number of years already, and that tendency will continue to see, used to batch size one production. So the amount of customization which is done to an individual product is much higher as compared to other industries. I think, as an example, I'd like to mention the kitchen industry. You go to an outlet where you buy a kitchen, and you get a kitchen, you know, very individualized for yourself from an industrial company at the end of the day. And that level of customization possible today, that of course is only possible with digitalization and automation. Building resilient supply chains is also seen as an opportunity for most of our members. That means investing in your own capacities, and that also means that we need to have more certainty, and that we are investing as an opportunity in a higher certainty of actually getting the goods and services which we need in order to complete our projects. Climate change transformation. I mean that's I guess a two-edged sword in a way. Obviously, it's a big opportunity, as we in Europe, I think, are used to these kind of technologies already for a while, and I would say to a larger extent than other countries. But of course, we also, on the other hand, need to be able to do that under circumstances where we still can do business internationally in a competitive way. So it's both an opportunity and a threat. And also, I think that's also interesting to note, the state economic stimulus and structural programs, of course, is positive when it's coming up, when that is being awarded to us. However, it's not as positive than one would have thought, I guess. So I think the takeaway from that is we as business leaders would like to work in an environment where we can just simply do our thing in the most positive and most open way, as opposed to being strangled by too many policies and regulations. Inflation, monetary policy, and shortage of skilled working demographics, I think that's just the flip side of the coin of automation, if you will. You automate in order to reduce the risk of shortage of skilled workers and demographics. That's something we can work actively against. However, inflation restrictive monetary policy, of course, is a restriction to the marketplace, but we in business can do little about that. We just have to deal with it. So what does it all mean for the woodworking machinery business in this year, in 2023? And that's an estimate or prognosis. Well, we expect that despite the many challenges we've had to deal with over the course of the last 1-2 years, we'll still have a close to record-breaking year this year, 3.4 billion euro business. It's a little less than it was last year. It's kind of in line with 2020-21. And I think, although, of course, in business we all live from development, we all want to do more every year, but if you keep in mind what has happened over the course of the last year's corona force, shortage of supply chains, Ukraine, and whatnot, and that we at least can maintain stable business, I think for us as an industry in total can be considered a success. So I'd like to close by saying, I'm almost in time. I'd like to close by saying again, thanks for making the effort of coming here today. We all look forward seeing you in a few months only back here in Hannover for LIGNA, the world-leading exhibition for the woodworking machinery. And have a good day, and have a safe travel back later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Markus. I actually have two questions for you, because I think one chart that actually stood out in your presentation, and where you yourself said you were positively surprised, was that almost 50% of the people asked in your survey were optimistic or casually optimistic. So maybe not from a VDMA point of view, but from a point of view as a CEO, do you belong to the optimistic or more to the casually optimistic group? I just assume that you're optimistic from your presentation.
Well, that's my job, right?
Yeah.
I should be the last guy to be pessimistic about what the future might bring. Well, indeed, I'd say that the opportunities outweigh the threats. The threats are there, the uncertainty is there, but I think we've also already in the past have demonstrated pretty good adaptability to changes and dealing with uncertainties. And I think I've mentioned a few examples in the last minute. So yes, I'm still optimistic. Am I thrilled about the future? No, I'm not. because I know, as all of you know, I know that the future will bring new challenges, and I don't know where they are coming from, but I think we are pretty well prepared.
Last question. I suppose you will be doing a survey right after LIGNA. Where would your wish be that the optimistic scale would be? 80, 90, 95%?
Well, wish. I think wish is something for Christmas, right?
Okay.
I think if at the end of the year we'll be able to demonstrate the figures which I've shown here in my prognosis, I think we all can be reasonably satisfied with this year, and then next year a new equation starts.
Mr. Hüllmann, thanks a lot.
Thanks.